Welcome to session 4 of water and its importance. Students, in today's session, we will learn about water cycle. Now, as we discussed in the previous session that how clouds form, how do clouds move, why do clouds form at different heights in the atmosphere. So, let us revise once again about cloud formation. Yes, the sun evaporates water from lakes and oceans, and as the air rises, it cools and the water vapor condenses into tiny droplets of water. So what happens then? That the droplets crowd together and form a cloud. And after that, wind blows the cloud towards the land, and the tiny droplets join together and fall as precipitation to the ground. But what is precipitation? That we will learn in water cycle, right? And after the tiny droplets join together and fall as precipitation to the ground, the water soaks into the ground and collects in rivers and lakes. And the cycle that never ends has started again. So this is the popular cycle, that is the water cycle, and it holds a very important role or an important place in our environment. So let us now study about water cycle in detail. Yes, first of all, we should know that what is meant by water cycle. Yes, students, water cycle is the cyclic movement of water from the atmosphere to the earth and back to the atmosphere through various processes. So that those various processes we will discuss here. Now, what do we call water cycle? There is one other name also given to this cycle called hydrological cycle. So the water cycle, which is also known as hydrological cycle, is the journey of water that it takes as it circulates from the land to the sky and back again. But have you ever thought that why do we need to have such type of cycle in our environment? Why this cycle occurs? Yes, we know very well that the earth is covered by water. However, almost 97% is salt water, which is found in the oceans, right? 97% is salt water, which is found in the oceans and seas. So we cannot drink salt water, or we cannot use it for crops because of the salt content. So we can remove salt from ocean water, but this process is very expensive. So let us see that how many processes are there which make up the water cycle. Yes, there are 6 important processes that make up the water cycle. So the first one is condensation, which is also the opposite of evaporation, right? So condensation is the process which is opposite to evaporation. Now, condensation occurs when a gas is changed into a liquid. For example, when water is in gaseous state, it is water vapor or steam, and that is changed to water again. So this is condensation. So first of all, condensation occurs. Yes. Second process is infiltration. Infiltration is an important process where rainwater soaks into the ground through the soil and underlying rock layers. Then runoff is the process in which much of the water that runs to earth as precipitation runs off the surface of the land and flows downhill into streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, etc. Then comes evaporation, the process where a liquid or a water, in this case there is water, which changes from its liquid state into gaseous state. And then the precipitation, when the temperature and atmospheric pressure are favorable, the small droplets of water in clouds form large droplets in precipitation occurs and the raindrops fall to the earth. Yes. Transpiration. As plants absorb water from the soil, the water moves from the roots through the stems to the leaves. So once the water reaches the leaves, some of it evaporates from the leaves, adding to the amount of water vapor in the air. So basically, this is the process which adds to the amount of water vapor in the air. Right? And remember, students, what is the term given to this line? That is the amount of water vapor in the air? Yes, humidity. Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air. So basically, these are all the processes which play very important role in water cycle. So whenever you look around the earth at all the oceans, seas and rivers, and when you consider all the rain, snow and sleet, it seems like water on this planet is limitless. But the fact is, though there is limited amount of water, why then has rain, snow and sleet fallen for all of history? Well, think of it this way. When you put a cold glass of water outside on a warm day, drops of water appear on the outside of the glass. How did this happen? It wasn't magic, but it was science. So to learn this, we need to understand water cycle too. Yes, so this is diagrammatic representation of water cycle. Now remember, in short, water droplets in the clouds keep bumping against one another, and sometimes they stick to form bigger drops, and when these drops become too heavy to float in the air, they drop down back to the earth as rain. So the water that comes down as rain in time evaporates and goes up to form clouds again, and this leads to form a cycle known as water cycle. But that was very short note. Now let us see that how many types of processes are there that we saw. But let us see that what processes play very important role. Yes. Now since we are talking about a cycle, there really is no beginning we can start from. Right? Because this is a cycle which goes on and on. Right? So we cannot say that it starts from precipitation or it starts from transpiration. It's not like that. But let us start from evaporation. Now a good way to think about evaporation is to consider how many puddles there are after a storm, especially on a hot day. When the sun comes out after a storm, many puddles disappear quickly, and it doesn't actually disappear. What happens? Though it just changes the form from liquid to water vapor, it is actually not visible. So we cannot say that it has disappeared. Right? So this process actually removes heat from the environment, and which is why sweat evaporating from our body cools us off. So changing from a liquid to a gas, water then travels up through the atmosphere, eventually changing back into a liquid through another process in the water cycle. Right? So here is the famous process, that is evaporation. So a practical use of evaporation is, other than this natural cooling effect which it has on our body, is that people can use it to separate salt also from salt water. Right? So this is this is another practical use or practical application of evaporation. Right? So this is what happens in evaporation, and after that comes condensation. Can you see here? Condensation means what will happen? That so now that our this water has evaporated up out of puddles, lakes, streams, or here you can see that from vegetation, from streams, from soil, from ocean, and through transpiration, evaporation occurs, and then clouds form. So now that water has evaporated up out of puddle, lake, stream or vegetation or soil or ocean or through transpiration, etc., what happens to it? Does it just keep going up and into outer space? Well, if you have ever seen green, you know that it comes back down to us. But how does it turn back to liquid water? As it has evaporated. So that is in the gaseous form, right? So condensation is the process by which the water vapor from evaporation becomes liquid again. So just picture a cloud. Here, this is a cloud. So just picture a cloud in your mind. Even though they look fluffy and comfortable, they are not comfortable, but they are really just made of condensed water vapor. It's true. If you are ever on a plane that goes through the clouds, so water will form on the windows, not the fluffy stuff. This is because clouds occur when water droplets combine with each other when they rise into cooler air higher up in the atmosphere. So on clear days, the rate of evaporation is same as the rate of condensation, so no clouds form. Clouds only occur when the air is so cool that the rate of evaporation slows and rate of condensation remains the same. Only then do clouds form. Remember this. Now, when the clouds form, that means this condensed water vapor is forming the clouds? Yes. After that, there is one more important process which occurs, that is precipitation. Now what is precipitation? What does it exactly mean? Yes, in this cycle, since condensation is the reformation of water vapor, what makes that water fall back down to earth? Even though clouds are made of condensed water, the droplets are so small that they are less dense than the air beneath them. Meaning the meaning is that they weigh too little to fall, because such tiny droplets cannot fall, right? So what happens that these droplets are so small, in fact, that it takes millions of these water droplets just to form it takes millions of them just to form a drop of water which weighs enough to fall. So when enough of these drops form the cloud, they all fall in the form of rain, snow, sleet or hail. And even though precipitation requires a few complicated processes to occur, over 121 trillion gallons of precipitation falls every year. So you can just imagine that millions of droplets just fall down, also just need to form a drop of water which weighs enough to fall on the ground as rain, snow, hail or sleet. And after that comes another process. Which process is it? Yes, collection. Now what happens in collection? This term is self-explanatory. Yes, now that water has fallen, all it has to do is to be evaporated again, right? Well, partly. Eventually the water will evaporate again. In fact, if we just look at the puddles from earlier, the water collected there will evaporate rather quickly after the precipitation stops falling. But the key word in the last sentence I said was collected. Means the water needs to be collected, even if only for a short time, before it can evaporate again. So water is collected in a few different ways. And the most obvious and the direct way is when water falls into water. Means water from the clouds as rain falls into water again. That means streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, etc. So in this case, the precipitation becomes part of that water supply and will over the course of time becomes water again. So water can also fall to earth and it can become a part of the groundwater. Which one? Groundwater, which we will discuss in the next session. Right? So this type of water is used by plants and can also run over the earth and make its way to water sources like ocean, seas, then rivers, ponds, lakes, streams, etc. So in this way this water cycle occurs, right? So that was all about water cycle. Now let us revise all these terms again. Yes, in this water cycle, which are the important processes? First is evaporation. That sun's heat changes the water in oceans, rivers, ponds and other water bodies into water vapor. Then transpiration, where plants give off water vapor through their leaves. Then condensation, where water vapor rises up and condenses on dust particles to form clouds. Then precipitation, water which is stored in clouds, they reach the earth in the form of rain, snow, sleet, etc. And then comes collection, where some rainwater seeps into the ground forming groundwater. And rainwater also flows into streams and rivers and then finds its way into oceans and sea. So these are the processes which are very important, which play a very important role in water cycle. Remember one more thing, students, that trees help in the process of water cycle through transpiration. And if deforestation continues with the same pace, which is actually going on in today's time, there will be insufficient rainfall. So we should plant more and more trees, right? So that was all about water cycle. Now, as I said, that if deforestation continues, there will be insufficient rainfall, right? And natural disasters may occur, like drought. Now what is drought? Let us understand this term and let us learn about it. Yes, a drought happens when there is no rain for a long period of time. And what happens in a drought? In a drought, plants do not grow properly as streams and rivers dry up and plants and animals die. So basically, sometimes it does not rain for a long time, for an entire month, 2 months, a whole season, 2 years, etc. So how can we define drought? Yes, the abnormally long period of insufficient or no rainfall is called drought. Remember this. So a drought happens when there is no rain for a long time. Rivers and streams dry up, plants and animals can die in drought, and people have less water in a drought. So basically, as streams and rivers also dry up, plants and animals also die, and because farm crops and animals die due to lack of water, there is less food for people to eat, and what food there costs more. If a drought lasts for a long time, people may also die of starvation, that is lack of food, and the land may become desert. So remember that without rain, the plants that are food for land animals And birds, they die. Not dies, they die. And when waterways dry up, there is scarcity of drinking water for wildlife. Even the fish and other animals that live in streams, rivers and dams, they die. So in areas where trees have been cut down, hot winds blow away the dry topsoil, and planting trees may help stop the soil being blown away in the times of drought. So to prepare for a time of drought, people store water in dams. They use the water from rivers to irrigate their crops, and the water supply to homes and to industry is also limited. So basically, wildlife is at risk too, because without rain, plants and animals would also die. Without water, without rain. And so we need to know that what are the causes for this lack of rain. Now there are many causes for this lack of rain. It can be due to natural global patterns of air circulation, like in the Sahara Desert, where the winds are very strong, where it's naturally very dry and very sunny. So basically, plants are affected, animals are affected, like frogs that need water in which they lay their eggs, and they are also a place for tadpoles to live as they develop into frogs. So in a drought, many creeks, rivers, wetlands dry up, and some species may not breed during the driest months. Even the reptiles that can dig themselves into the ground under rocks, or hide under or inside rocks and go into a sleep-like state until the ground gets moist again, then they wake up and get active once more. So basically, the cause of all droughts is not enough rainfall. During the drought, the land can become starved of nourishment. The earth is parched, and even some rain falls, it dries up very quickly. So there are many causes. In other parts of the world, droughts can be caused when high pressure weather systems last for several weeks. When there is a high pressure system, no clouds will form because no water can evaporate there. When a high pressure system is over an area for too long period of time or too long time, there is no precipitation. So high pressure systems they bring lots of sunshine, but can stop the passage of low pressure systems that bring rain. So unfortunately, droughts can be created or at least helped along by people too. The poor practices in farming and too many fertilizers can make the soil lose its moisture and richness, and constant use of fossil fuels causes global warming and extreme weather. So droughts are a part of extreme weather changes that are happening around the world. Remember, droughts are the part of extreme weather changes that are happening around the world. So now this is drought, and this is what causes droughts to happen. And this is one picture of land which seems to be cracked because of drought. So this is the result of drought, right? Droughts have very difficult times. Most plants die, even trees. Even trees have long roots that extend deep into the ground, but there is also very little or no water even there during the drought. When there are no plants, animals that survive in plants also die. As a result, carnivores also decrease in number and the food chain breaks. So just imagine what will happen if the food chain breaks. Animals and humans also die due to thirst and dehydration, which is the excessive loss of water from the body. And when plants, they do not grow, agriculture suffers, and farmers are not able to grow enough food to sell and make money. So this leads to people getting poorer. And then there is lack of food in the region where there is drought, causing a famine. So this is what happens. But what do you do to prepare for droughts? Now, for example, in southwestern USA, droughts occur approximately every 22 years, and in countries like China, droughts occur every 10 years. So in preparation for droughts, we should save water supply and we should save on water supply and food so that we can have something to eat and drink. And what do we do during droughts? During the drought, most governments advise the people to drink less water, to bath less often, and wash their cars less often. So when a drought becomes very serious, there is a limit to how much water each person may use. And if the amount of water used exceeds, then this person is fined or possibly imprisoned. In poor countries, international aid frequently has to help out to feed the people and helps to prevent a famine. This is what we can do in such conditions. Now I would like to discuss one more topic, that is the case study in which the droughts happened in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. You might be knowing about it, and if you are not knowing about it, let us discuss about it. What is the case study in which droughts in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh occurred? Yes. With the failure of the monsoon in several areas of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh in 1999, there was a serious drought where the extreme water scarcity had been particularly devastating. So basically what happened, that with the failure of the 1999 monsoon in several areas, there was a serious drought, and several villages are now well equipped to face the water scarcity after this drought happened. While traveling through the region, a down-to-earth reporter found that the villages that have built water harvesting structures do not have drinking water problem, and some even have enough for irrigation. That is what the steps have been taken after this happened. And there are about 30,000 duck wells or bore wells and about 350 tube wells tapping the underground aquifers in Bhuj and Manchur. And the utilizable groundwater resources of the district estimated in 1991 are about some million cubic meters. So basically, now 57% of the land area of Kutch has been occupied by the saline mudlands of the run of Kutch, which will not contribute to groundwater recharge. But the data from the Agriculture Department of Gujarat says that the cropped area in Saurashtra and Kutch has declined by 35% in parts affected by seawater intrusion. But then too, we should take some steps that we can survive in this condition too. So at that time, Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh were affected, very seriously affected. But apart from Saurashtra and Kutch too, there were other regions which were affected, like the districts of Dahod and Panchmahal, at that time when drought happened. So at that time, water scarcity had been particularly devastating. And with little water for irrigation, the first casualty has been agriculture. After the kharif crop, which is harvested in autumn season, that failed to a large extent in those areas, there are already signs that the rabi crop will suffer a similar fate if drought happens in this way. So rainfall was low that year, and it distributed in such a way that there was no runoff. So harvesting of water did not take place. And yet many watershed areas where rainwater harvesting and soil water conservation measures have been implemented, or they had been implemented, they are better off in terms of water availability now. So basically, after this case study, many of the people have understood that in such crisis, we should take certain measures that we can survive in this type of condition, or we can overcome. So there is nothing impossible we can take certain measures. But with little water, agriculture will be an impossible thing to do. And if there will be no water, then obviously problem will arise. So we should keep that in mind, and we should try to conserve water. Right, so that was all about the water cycle, and we also discussed about natural disaster. We will discuss about other natural disaster in next session, so don't miss it. Till then, keep enjoying and have a nice time.